Hello, dear lovers of the ancient Roman history. Today's topic is very interesting. Today's topic will be about the Punic Wars. Why the topic is so interesting? First, if we look at the accounts of some modern scholars, and one of them is Goldworthy, who said that if in that war Roman didn't prevail, the world would have been different. And I think I agree with his words, because really, with this war, Rome became a superpower and became such a big state that its influence were expanded also, not only the territories, but the Roman influence by law, architecture and everything. So all these things in these vast territories were influenced by the Romans, and so the world. Because after this war, Rome will start to have colonies and territories in North Africa, West expand its territory in West Europe, and so on. When all this started, until 264 BC, the two states, Carthage and Rome, they live in peace. Up to that year, 264, Rome expanded its territory. First, how we look at it in the previous episodes, they defeat in Veii in a very important battle, and the city was taken by the Romans from the Etruscans, and later in years they were annihilated by the Romans, and then territory, what is today Tuscany, was conquered by the Romans. Not only that, they further expand them territories and influence. They defeat the Gauls and almost conquer, up to that year 264, almost all North Italy, Central Italy. In the Central Italy they had a really ferocious war with the Samnites, who had on them side as well Gaul allies. And then Rome continued expanding in the south of the peninsula, where we saw in the previous episodes, finally they defeated the extremely talented and charismatic king Pyrrhus. So they expanded territory to the south of the peninsula, so they became masters of almost all peninsula of Italy. So that's brought them close to the island of Sicily. Who was in Sicily and who was the master of Sicily before 264 BC? The west part and south part were under the straight control of the Carthaginians. The other parts were ruled by different tyrants or tribes. Why the war starts and who is to be blamed? If there is any blames of the war, we can't be 100% sure who was really the one, the aggressor, and who wrongly started this war. We can say for sure that the both states were growing and becoming stronger, and in my humble opinion, it was just matter of time when this war will start with the two growing Mediterranean powers. Historian William Harris in the late 70s wrote an interesting book, which I can agree with his views as well, that Rome, the imperialism of Rome is based on three fundamental things. First, fear, greed, secondly, and third, glory. We can't completely ignore this theory, because really most of the consuls of Rome and later dictators and emperors of Rome, they look in the battlefield for glory, and they as well win a lot of wealth, which wealth helped them to become really influential back home. But let's go back how it started. The Carthage saw opportunity to seize all the power in and all territories in Sicily. Rome saw that as a threat, and they start a war, which these three wars will last from 264 BC to 146 BC. The first Punic War will last from 264 BC to 241 BC, and the victorious will be coming Rome. Rome will come out from the war victorious. The beginning of the war, the Carthaginians definitely were the masters in the sea. They built them empire in the western Mediterranean, controlling south of Spain, half of Sicily, all North Africa, parts of Near East, by their ships and merchandising. So they were, in modern terms, businessmen who were looking for opportunity and expansion. They were definitely had the supremacy in the sea, but Rome had the supremacy on the land. The two powers starts with completely different aspects of the armies, different structure of the army. The Carthaginians mainly rely on mercenaries, on allies. Then Rome rely on their own soldiers and also on them allies, which they had a tight, very really close ties with. And Rome also had more inhabitants and more manpower. And so the Carthaginians were defeated in the First Punic War. And they lost some territories, of course, the whole Sicily and other territories. But to rebuild them strength, they start to conquer parts of Spain that they weren't conquered before, reaching silver and the other goods. So they start to build a new Carthago Nova, as it's known in the history, the new Carthage in south of Spain. And they kind of regain the power they had and the strength they had before the First Punic War. But before we go to the Second Punic War, which is really epical, and it's really highlighted the events for the deeds of one of the greatest generals in the human history, Hannibal. His father, Hamilcar Barca, he was his father, and not only, he was a great general in the First World War. And when the three of his sons were born, Hannibal, Hasdrubal, and Mago, he sat front of his wife when they were little children. He said, I nourish 3 lions, they're going to destroy Rome. And his words were almost fulfilled and prophetic, because 3 of his sons would become great generals, but especially Hannibal outshined all of them. And he will stay in history as the greatest general in all times. So before start the Second Punic War in 218 BC, Carthage, how I said, it was building its strength again. And Rome, of course, again saw it as a threat, which we cannot blame them, because really Carthage was strong, and they were the 2 strongest states in the Mediterranean and the West Mediterranean at the time. So the war starts again. But Hannibal did something really bold, and which nobody was expecting it. He attacked the Romans from the north, as bringing through the Alps elephants, war elephants. The Carthaginians were very famous with them type of war elephants, the African war elephants, which the Romans were terrified with them. So he crossed the Alps, and of course he knew that the North Italy will join him, because the Gauls weren't conquered that long, and they really disliked the Romans. So they join Hannibal against the Romans. He defeated them in 218 in the Battle of Trebia. He outshined the Romans not only with the bravery of his soldiers, but his extreme talent and as a tactician and a general. He destroyed the Romans, and he continued south in Italy. Like, he was expecting the Romans to plead for peace, but they did not. So in the second battle in 217 BC, in the Battle of Trasimene, he really annihilated the Roman army. The consul died, one of the consuls died, and also in the Council of Livy, 45,500 Roman soldiers were killed. And for some accounts, they estimate the losses of the Romans to up to 80,000 soldiers and members of the nobility. So after this battle, he really thought the Romans would plead for peace and favorable conditions for the Carthaginians, but they did not. And the war continued, and in 216, in Battle of Cannae, Hannibal again defeated uh, the Romans. And really in a battle that will be remembered, they die more, for a lot of accounts, up to 80,000 soldiers too. And for ancient world, but even before nowadays, it's a really, really astonishing number of soldiers. When we know that Europe, between the Ural Mountain and Portugal today, it was on more than 80 million people. So really the Romans had a tremendous losses. And Hannibal thought that that would be, after 3 really magnificent battles he won, that that will be the end of the Romans and they would ask for peace and plead for peace. But again, they did not. And Hannibal thought as well that after defeating them so badly in Italy, that most of the allies of the Romans will desert Rome and join him. But it happened, only one city joined him, and the rest of the allies stay loyal to Rome, which made the situation for Hannibal bad and goes to worse. So he has to go back to Carthage because there were some problems there. And in the end, the war finished in favor of Rome. And in 202 BC. So the war was ended and Rome prevailed again. Rome became master of West Spain. So it was undisputable master of West Mediterranean. But the Carthage has to pay tribute every year to Rome. They have to have very little troops, so they won't be a threat to Rome again. But a lot of Romans bear in mind that Carthage almost destroyed Rome. And they never forgot that Carthage almost killed the Roman state and the Roman people. And in the minds of the Romans, such an enemy could be left alive. And how one famous saying talk about Rome, that Rome never forget injuries. And Rome never forgot that Carthage almost sent them to hell. So even though some Romans said, okay, we leave them in peace, we defeat them, they compliant all the parts of our contract, peace agreement we had. So leave them alone. But many Romans, they wouldn't. And one of them was Catu the eldest, who every time when he have a speech in the Senate, it doesn't matter what was the topic, he strongly believed that Carthage should be destroyed. And always, doesn't matter what was the discussion and topic, he will be finish his speeches with Carthago delenda est, which is mean Carthage should be destroyed. Finally, this moment comes, and Scipio Africanus, who was personally injured, his father was killed, by the Carthaginian Hannibal. They started war and he used the same tactics Hannibal used against the Romans. And the Roman army was brought to Carthage, not far from Carthage, in the legendary little town called Zama. And the battle for the life and death of Carthage began. That was the first and the last time Hannibal lost a battle. He lost it, so did Carthage. After that, the Carthage was destroyed and was spread all over it, salt as a scourge, as something that the Romans believed that never again the gods will favor this place, and it was cursed. And so how that war ended and the great Carthage ceased to exist. A lot of historians, and one of them is Goldsworthy, said that if Rome did not win that war, the world would have been a different now. And I prone to agree with him, because as this victory, Rome expand not only its territory, but its influence, law, culture, way of life in North Africa, West Europe, Near East, which that will have impacts of all over the world in later centuries to come. I hope you enjoy this episode about this epic war, the Punic Wars, and if you like it, just hit the subscribe button and a like one, and I see you next time.